You've encountered him before. You know the type, the man who promises the world, but somehow every conversation, every interaction seems to lead you down a winding path that goes nowhere. The one who makes everything sound possible only to leave you questioning where your time went. Today, I want to talk about why that man will waste your time, and not just a little bit, but a lot. There are 3 critical reasons. And once you understand them, you'll know exactly what to watch out for. Clarity is one of the most essential aspects of time management. When you're working on a project, engaging in a conversation, or setting goals, having clear intentions and understanding the direction you're heading in is vital. Without clarity, everything becomes foggy and uncertain. Tasks get postponed, decisions get delayed, and progress becomes an uphill battle. The time you would have spent effectively is wasted trying to navigate confusion or attempting to make sense of ambiguous instructions. Imagine you're working with someone who constantly gives vague directions. They tell you, let's get this done sometime soon, without providing a clear deadline, or they may present ideas in such a way that you're not sure if they're suggestions or requirements. This lack of clarity not only causes confusion, but also delays your ability to move forward. You end up wasting time seeking clarification, second guessing, or waiting for a more solid answer. The lack of a clear path often leads to unnecessary back and forth communication that could have been avoided with a bit more precision from the outset. Clarity also plays a crucial role in decision making. When decisions are not clear-cut or are left to linger indefinitely, it causes paralysis. You spend more time pondering, reconsidering options, and getting stuck in cycles of doubt, which detracts from your ability to take action. This constant state of uncertainty consumes energy, distracts your focus, and prevents you from achieving the results you're working towards. When decisions are vague, it's almost as if you are not really in control of the situation, and instead you are at the mercy of undefined variables that never get resolved. Without clarity, prioritization becomes a challenge. You cannot effectively assess what's truly important when the objectives, goals, and outcomes are unclear. You might spend time on tasks that, while urgent in the moment, do not contribute meaningfully to the bigger picture. When things aren't clearly defined, it's easy to get caught up in trivial details, giving them undue attention, and ultimately diverting your time from the things that matter most. This inefficiency can significantly slow down progress, making it feel like you're spinning your wheels rather than actually advancing. Clarity allows for focused effort. When everyone involved knows exactly what needs to be done, by whom and by when, the path forward becomes straightforward, allowing time to be used productively instead of being squandered in a haze of uncertainty. Ambiguity keeps you in a state of waiting where nothing ever truly moves forward. When you don't have a clear sense of purpose or understanding of what's expected, it's easy to feel like you're constantly stuck in limbo. You may think you're making progress, but in reality, you're simply treading water, unsure of the next step, the next move, or even the outcome. This ambiguity leads to hesitation, as it's difficult to commit to a course of action when there's no clear direction in sight. For example, consider a situation where you're waiting for someone to provide you with specific information or guidance, but every time you check in, you're met with an answer that's vague or non-committal. You might be told, "I'll let you know soon," or "we'll see what happens." With no clear time frame or actionable details, you're left waiting for something that may or may not happen. This uncertainty creates a sense of stagnation. You can't plan your next move because you don't know when or if the next step will even materialize. Time slips away as you wait for clarity that never comes. And what was once a productive day or week becomes a series of unproductive moments spent in anticipation. The real issue with ambiguity is that it keeps you from making informed decisions. When things are unclear, it's almost impossible to move forward with confidence. You constantly have to second guess yourself, wondering if the next action will lead you down the right path or cause you to veer off track. Every decision feels like a gamble because there's no clear vision of the future, making it incredibly difficult to focus on what's important. Instead of being able to prioritize tasks and goals, you're left navigating a fog of uncertainty, where everything seems important but nothing gets accomplished in a timely manner. In both personal and professional contexts, ambiguity can cause friction and frustration. The lack of clear communication creates gaps in understanding, which lead to wasted effort and wasted time. You might be waiting for feedback, approval, or even a simple update, but without clarity, you're left in a constant cycle of waiting for something that doesn't seem to come to fruition. This ongoing cycle of uncertainty leads to missed opportunities and lost productivity, as you're unable to act decisively or with purpose. The longer you remain in this state, the more time gets drained without any real progress being made. Indecision keeps you stuck in a holding pattern, preventing you from moving forward. When decisions are left hanging or postponed indefinitely, progress grinds to a halt. This inability to make choices creates an environment of uncertainty, where every action feels like it's waiting for something to happen first. The longer you remain in this state of indecision, the more time slips by without any concrete results. And you end up investing energy in waiting instead of achieving. Consider the impact of indecision in a project or collaboration. When decisions about goals, tasks, or roles are delayed or never fully addressed, the entire project suffers. Everyone involved is left waiting for the green light to proceed, but the lack of clarity about when that moment will come or what the next step is creates confusion. People begin to feel stuck, unsure of what actions are acceptable or necessary. As a result, work is postponed, resources are left idle, and opportunities are missed. The project, which could have moved forward quickly, now takes twice as long to complete, simply because of one unresolved decision. Indecision also leads to mental exhaustion. Constantly ruminating over a choice, weighing options, and wondering about the potential outcomes drains your focus and energy. When you can't settle on a decision, your mind becomes cluttered with thoughts and scenarios, making it harder to concentrate on what actually needs to be done. You begin to feel overwhelmed by the weight of uncertainty, and instead of moving toward your goals, you find yourself going around in circles. This mental fog not only wastes time, but also affects your motivation. The longer you delay decisions, the more challenging it becomes to regain focus and confidence in the direction you're heading. Indecision fosters missed opportunities. Time-sensitive decisions, whether personal or professional, require quick action. In a competitive environment, the hesitation to make decisions allows others to seize opportunities that you might have otherwise had. Every moment spent waiting for clarity is a moment someone else could be moving ahead. What could have been an easy win becomes a mischance. And what's worse, you're left watching others succeed while you remain stuck in your indecision. Over time, this pattern of inaction can significantly erode your confidence, making it even harder to make future decisions with certainty. As time passes, the cost of indecision becomes more apparent, not just in lost time, but in lost potential as well. Time spent on vague promises is time lost. And this is particularly true when dealing with individuals who offer assurances without following through. The problem with vague promises is that they create a false sense of progress, making it seem like something important is about to happen, but in reality, nothing materializes. When someone repeatedly tells you, "I'll get back to you soon," or "we'll work on this together soon," it can feel like you're on the verge of something great, but those promises are rarely followed by concrete actions. This sense of waiting can quickly turn into a significant waste of time, especially when nothing ever comes of it. The real issue with vague promises is that they keep you in a state of expectation, which is mentally draining. You're left waiting, wondering when things will finally move forward. However, because there is no defined timeline or specific details, the promise becomes nothing more than empty words. Each time you check in, you hear the same assurances, but with no results to back them up. This leads to a cycle of anticipation followed by disappointment, as your expectations are continuously unmet. Instead of actively working toward a goal, you're left in a state of limbo, constantly wondering when the moment will arrive where things finally begin to take shape. Vague promises also create confusion about priorities. When someone tells you that something will happen soon, but never defines what soon means or gives you an exact timeline, it leaves you unsure of where to direct your focus. Are you supposed to wait for them to follow through? Should you pursue other options? This lack of clarity not only wastes time, but it also leads to indecision, as you're never sure whether or not to prioritize your task or wait for the promise to become a reality. You might hold off on other opportunities, thinking that the person will come through. But in the meantime, time passes and opportunities slip away. Vague promises undermine your ability to act with confidence. They leave you spinning your wheels, waiting for something that might never come. Instead of spending your time working toward a clear objective or making progress in other areas, you're left focused on the potential of an outcome that has no clear path forward. And the more time you spend on those promises that never materialize, the more time you waste waiting for something that might never happen. Constant distractions can prevent meaningful action from ever taking place. They may seem harmless at first, little interruptions that don't seem like a big deal in a moment, but over time, they add up, chipping away at your focus and productivity. These distractions can come in many forms, from notifications on your phone, emails flooding your inbox, to even people or events that demand your attention. Each one pulls you away from the task at hand, forcing you to recalibrate and refocus, which is a time-consuming process. The result is a constant cycle of starting and stopping, with no real progress being made. One of the biggest issues with distractions is that they break your concentration. When you're working on something that requires deep thought or creativity, it can take several minutes to regain your flow after being interrupted. The mental energy required to shift gears takes a toll, and the time it takes to get back on track after an interruption is often longer than you realize. This constant disruption not only wastes time, but also diminishes the quality of the work being done. The focus you once had is diluted, leaving you less efficient and more likely to make mistakes. What should be a productive, smooth task becomes a fragmented effort that takes longer than it should, all because distractions have pulled you off course. Distractions also make it difficult to prioritize. When you're constantly shifting your attention from one thing to another, you lose sight of what's truly important. Instead of focusing on the most urgent or impactful tasks, you end up spending time on trivial matters that don't contribute to your overall goals. The constant cycle of switching between tasks can trick you into thinking you're being productive, but in reality, you're just bouncing from one low-priority task to another. The key work that moves you closer to your goals gets pushed aside, buried under a pile of less important things that feel urgent in the moment, but are ultimately meaningless. Distractions lead to stress and frustration. When you're trying to accomplish something, but you're constantly being pulled away from it, the pressure builds up. It becomes harder to focus, harder to finish, and you start to feel overwhelmed by the weight of everything you haven't completed yet. The more you let distractions control your day, the more difficult it becomes to regain a sense of control over your time and your tasks. You start to feel like you're chasing your own tail. And even when you're working hard, nothing seems to get done. The time spent in this cycle of distraction could have been better used in achieving actual progress. Hesitation wastes your momentum and focus, two of the most important factors for success in any endeavor. When you hesitate to make a decision, take action, or move forward, you lose the drive that would have propelled you to the next step. The longer you linger in hesitation, the more you disrupt your flow, causing a ripple effect that stalls your entire process. Instead of moving quickly and efficiently, you find yourself stuck, unable to make the most of your time or energy. The momentum you once had begins to fade, replaced by uncertainty and doubt. The issue with hesitation is that it prevents you from building upon the progress you've already made. Every step forward requires a certain level of confidence, and when you hesitate, that confidence erodes. You start questioning your next move, doubting whether it's the right thing to do. The longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to take action at all. It feels as though every decision becomes more complicated and more daunting, even though the path forward was once clear. As a result, opportunities are missed and momentum is lost, leaving you with a sense of frustration and regret. What could have been a swift and decisive action becomes a drawn-out process of second guessing and waiting. Hesitation also impacts your ability to prioritize. When you're hesitant to make decisions or take action, you spend more time worrying about the consequences than focusing on what truly matters. You get caught up in overthinking, analyzing every possible outcome, and debating what the best course of action is. This indecision causes a backlog of tasks, leaving you with multiple things to do, but no clear path on how to tackle them. Your time is eaten up by this cycle of doubt and inaction, and in the process, the most important tasks remain undone or delayed. The effect of hesitation is also psychological. The longer you hesitate, the more stress and anxiety build up. You start to feel the weight of unfinished tasks and unresolved decisions. This mental burden adds pressure, and instead of feeling motivated to get things done, you feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things you need to address. The hesitation, which seemed harmless at first, has now compounded into a source of frustration, leading to procrastination and further delays. Lack of decision-making creates unnecessary delays that eat away at your time and energy. When decisions are not made promptly, even simple choices can build up and become larger obstacles, hindering progress. Every decision, no matter how small, sets a chain of events in motion. Without making those decisions, you remain stagnant, unsure of the next steps, and everything around you begins to slow down. It's easy to underestimate the power of small decisions. But when they accumulate, they form a web of delays that prevents you from achieving your goals. One of the main problems with indecision is that it causes a domino effect. You hesitate to make one decision and it impacts others down the line. When you delay choosing the best course of action, you set back timelines and those delays pile up, ultimately stretching a process or project much longer than it should take. This is especially detrimental when you're working with a team or when your decisions affect other people. Others may be waiting on your choice to move forward with their task. And by not making a decision, you're holding everyone back. The longer you wait, the more pressure mounts. And the longer it takes to regain momentum once a decision is finally made. A lack of decision making can foster a sense of frustration, both for you and for those who depend on you. Each time you put off making a choice, you're wasting precious time that could have been used to take action. When you don't make a decision, you leave everything in limbo. People can't proceed with their tasks and resources can't be allocated effectively. There's a growing sense of wasted time, and that frustration can compound. People begin to feel stuck and uncertain about the future, unsure of what actions to take or how to plan for what's ahead. The longer you avoid making decisions, the more difficult it becomes to move forward. The weight of those unresolved choices starts to add up, making it harder for you to regain clarity and confidence. What seemed like an innocent delay can become a major hurdle that prevents you from taking action. This constant avoidance not only robs you of time, but also erodes your sense of control. The more time you spend deliberating without making decisions, the more time slips away and opportunities can pass you by. Each missed opportunity adds to the feeling of lost time and wasted potential, which makes it harder to get back on track. Time spent in a state of distraction often leads to a loss of focus, making it difficult to achieve meaningful progress. When you allow external or internal distractions to control your attention, your ability to concentrate on the task at hand diminishes. This constant shift in focus prevents you from staying on track and wastes precious time that could have been better utilized. Each distraction, whether it's a phone notification, an irrelevant thought, or an interruption from someone, pulls you away from what you're trying to accomplish. The more frequent these disruptions are, the harder it becomes to get back to the original task and regain the momentum you had. Distractions also fragment your thinking. When you switch your focus back and forth, you break the flow of your work, leading to disjointed thoughts and incomplete tasks. It becomes challenging to keep track of what you're doing or where you left off, and each time you return to the task, you have to mentally reorient yourself. This mental shift is time-consuming and requires additional energy, slowing down your productivity. Not only does it take time to regain your focus, but often the quality of your work is also affected. Without sustained attention, the final outcome may lack coherence or depth, and the effort you put in doesn't reflect the time spent. Allowing distractions to take over your time reduces the likelihood of meeting deadlines. When you're continuously pulled away from your work, tasks take longer to complete. The time you thought you would spend productively gets stretched out, and suddenly deadlines seem closer than they actually are. You might think you can multitask, but in reality, multitasking is rarely efficient. Each new task demands a mental reset, and trying to juggle multiple things only increases the chances of errors, delays, and unnecessary revisions. The impact of distractions on your overall productivity isn't just about losing focus in the moment, it compounds over time. Repeated distractions create a pattern of inefficiency, leaving you feeling behind, overburdened, and unable to meet your goals. As time slips away, the tasks that seem manageable now seem overwhelming. The longer you allow distractions to rule your day, the more difficult it becomes to break free from this cycle. Each hour that's lost to distractions is an hour that could have been spent making progress towards your goals. The wasted time not only affects your productivity, but also chips away at your sense of accomplishment, leaving you with a growing feeling of frustration and unmet potential. Procrastination is one of the most insidious time wasters because it creates a cycle that is hard to break. When you put off tasks, especially ones that feel overwhelming or unpleasant, you not only delay completing them, but you also amplify the stress and pressure that comes with them. Initially, procrastination might seem like a way to avoid discomfort, but in reality, it only makes things worse in the long run. The longer you avoid the task, the bigger it feels and the more difficult it becomes to approach. One of the reasons procrastination is so damaging is that it leads to a buildup of tasks, each one seemingly small at first, but accumulating over time. As you continue to push things aside, your to-do list grows longer and the sense of overwhelm becomes more pronounced. The small, manageable tasks quickly evolve into a mountain of work, making it even harder to start. What you could have accomplished in a short period becomes a daunting project that feels impossible to tackle. This creates a cycle of guilt and anxiety as the tasks pile up and deadlines approach. Instead of taking action, you get stuck in a mental loop of dread, convincing yourself that you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. Procrastination also robs you of your sense of accomplishment. The more you delay, the less you get done, and the more you feel as if you're not making any progress. This lack of productivity leads to frustration and a growing sense of regret. You might spend your days waiting for the right moment to start, but in reality, there is no perfect time. The longer you wait, the more opportunities slip by and your goals remain unattainable. Not only does this lead to wasted time, but it also damages your self-esteem. You begin to doubt your ability to follow through, and each delay feels like a reminder of your failure to act. Procrastination tends to be contagious. If you're in an environment where procrastination is prevalent, it can negatively impact others around you. When you put things off, others are affected by your delay as well, and the ripple effect of inaction spreads. You might wait for feedback, approval, or collaboration from others, but the longer you take, the longer everyone else has to wait. As tasks continue to be postponed, the collective progress of the group slows down, leading to more missed deadlines and more stress. In the end, procrastination isn't just a personal issue, it becomes a shared problem that hinders collective success. Inefficiency in processes is one of the most significant contributors to wasted time. Whether it's the way tasks are completed, the systems in place, or how resources are allocated, inefficiencies can slow down progress and prevent you from achieving your goals in a timely manner. Every unnecessary step or redundant task adds time to the overall process, often without offering any additional value. These inefficiencies are often not immediately obvious, but over time they accumulate and compound, making tasks take longer than they should. A prime example of inefficiency is poor organization. When things aren't streamlined or well structured, finding information, gathering resources, or even deciding what to do next becomes more complicated and time consuming. If you're constantly searching for documents, tools, or information that should be easily accessible, you're not only wasting time, but also draining energy. The time it takes to get organized and find what you need could have been spent on productive work. Similarly, a lack of clear systems or processes means that tasks are often repeated unnecessarily or handled inefficiently. Each redundant step might seem like a small inconvenience, but together they can add up to hours, days, or even weeks of wasted time. Major issue is the failure to delegate properly. When individuals take on too much because they don't trust others to do the work or fail to assign the right tasks to the right people, it creates bottlenecks in productivity. Instead of focusing on tasks that require their specific expertise, they end up wasting time on tasks that others could easily handle. This leads to a backlog of work where everyone is overwhelmed with more than they can handle, and the quality of the work suffers. Time is lost and progress is stalled because resources are not being used in the most effective way. Inefficiency also results from a lack of clear priorities. Without a solid plan or a clear understanding of what needs to be done first, tasks are often handled in a disjointed manner. When you don't focus on the most important tasks, smaller, less critical tasks consume your time, and larger, more impactful projects get pushed aside. This not only delays your progress, but also makes it harder to see meaningful results. Inefficiency in decision-making can cause delays, as unnecessary back and forth or waiting for approvals only drag out processes and reduce productivity. By not setting priorities effectively or streamlining processes, time is wasted on less significant actions that don't contribute to the end goal. So let's recap. The man who lacks clarity, thrives on distractions, and refuses to make decisions is the one who will waste your time. He keeps you on hold, always promising something that never quite materializes. And before you know it, days, weeks, months, maybe even years have passed, and you realize that your time has been used not in making progress, but in endless circles of uncertainty. But here's the silver lining: you don't have to let it continue. Recognizing these patterns is the first step. Know your value. Know that your time is worth more than chasing after empty promises, wasting your energy on distractions, or waiting for decisions that may never come. Surround yourself with those who are clear in their intentions, decisive in their actions, and committed to moving forward with purpose. Don't let anyone steal your time. It's the one thing you'll never get back. And remember, time is a precious thing. Guard it, Don't let anyone waste it.